Amazing. So another thing that we've actually noticed, and I know we touched upon it earlier, is property investors are actually increasing their interest into hotels and into blocks of apartments to actually house these asylum seekers because they are coming over. It's not going to stop. I mean, I think the first week of Keir Starmer being in charge, there was 100,000 illegal immigrants coming across the border. So the government are actually advertising on their website for these guys to come over. They're going to get a free house. They're going to get paid out of our money, out of the taxpayers' money. So for us and for property investors, right, instead of moaning about it, let's benefit from it. Let's actually get a slice of the pie. Mm-hmm. So we've actually seen a bit of an increase in hotels and blocks of apartments. Everyone's looking to get hold of them at the moment because the rates are unbelievable.
Yeah,
they are paying some crazy, crazy rates, but the compliance on the side of it...
It's quite heavy, yeah.
It's quite heavy, and the government aren't afraid to cut the contract at any cost. So if they do cut it and you've got a hotel full of asylum seekers, you can be left with a sticky situation, to say the least.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right in what you're saying, to be fair. And social housing is blew up recently. It's always been around, but for some reason, only in the past maybe year plus, we've started to see a massive increase in everyone wanting to do social housing. But there is that demand there. So it's not too late at the moment to be able to jump onto something like this because it will make you more money going down that route than, going down to a single let, for example.
And it is such a wide umbrella as well. There's
loads.
So much to it. There's temporary accommodation, children's care, people for drug misuse,
disabilities,
involuntary homelessness, disabilities. It's such a
vulnerable
wide...
adults. There's loads.
There's such a wide umbrella. So there's so much opportunity within social housing and temporary accommodation. It's just getting educated, make sure you've got the right compliance in place, and you know what you're doing essentially, because you don't want to get stung. Amazing. So one thing we are going to cover is HMO management tips. Now, at our peak, we had about 65 tenants through the rent-to-rent strategy. So we're going to be covering some HMO management tips that we have learned personally through experience. I mean, Tom, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one on the list is correct vetting. Please pay attention to this, okay? Because this is quite a big one. If you get a bad tenant in your property, you are going to know about it. All right. You could have an 8-bed HMO. You only need one bad person in there to bring the entire house down. Okay. Let's just say you've got one tenant that's not paying you for whatever reason, but the rest of the house then clocks onto it and he's still allowed to live there. Then you might just genuinely end up having a house where you've got no income coming through. So the vetting is the first tip that you need to make sure that you do. Now, you can go down the route of like the NRLA. It's £21 to go and get a reference check, okay? And that will be able to tell you everything that's wrong with a tenant or right with a tenant. But having the right people in there is key. Don't just throw anybody in there because you might have a personality clash. So you really need to make sure that you match everyone up in the property as best you can, because if you do that, then you're not going to have anyone leave. So if you're throwing any random guy in there and they don't all get along, then you're going to have a high turnover of people. And the whole idea is to see if we can get these guys to stay for the longest time possible, because therefore we don't need to remarket, we don't need to advertise, we don't need to do viewings, we don't need to go through the whole tenant onboarding process if these guys are just staying there and you've got recurring income coming through.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, one massive thing is just simply not to mix students with professionals.
Yeah.
And if you do have a property and you do have someone in there from a social housing or a temporary accommodation company, don't get them in there with your professionals, because one bad apple can bring the entire house down. I mean, we had someone that was quite disruptive. Don't get me wrong, flew through all the referencing. Really, really nice bloke.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on.
Are we?
Yep.
Amazing. So...
Yep. Stay on top of compliances. So, your fire regulations, there's loads of different things you need to make sure, especially in HMO. The licensing's up to standard, your EICR, your risk assessments, okay? It needs to be compliant. Now, if you're doing it on a rent-to-rent basis, that responsibility doesn't really lie with you unless it does. In some cases, they can transfer it over to you to stay on top of. If it's not up to you, okay, just make sure it's done. Because if your property's not compliant, you can get in a whole world of trouble, especially if it's unlicensed. If you've got an unlicensed property, there's an unlimited fine. I think, what was that, the article I showed you, when was it, a couple of months ago, and someone got fined, I think it was £30,000 for having an unlicensed property, and he was made to repay all of his tenants that were in there their entire rent back for the whole of their stay. Wow, that is not something that you want.
For a landlord.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I mean, another massive point is keeping clear communication with tenants.
Yep.
I think it's basic, but it's so important.
It's effective.
It's so effective as well. I mean, one thing we did is we just simply made WhatsApp group chats. WhatsApp chats for every single person in there, even had your cleaner in there so she can update the tenants on when she's going to be arriving. But clear communication is absolutely key, because instead of you having to message these people individually, you can just go stick it in the chat. Everyone's going to be able to see it, and then everyone's going to be able to communicate.
They also build relationships up within them chats as well, which is the one thing you do want to make sure that if you can help it, you do. Because if these guys are getting on, then there's no reason why they'll want to leave. So, yeah, I'd 100% recommend the WhatsApp chats. We also had it in some of our HMOs where they actually become friends. They were going down the pub on a Friday. It'd be quite funny because you'd sit in the WhatsApp chat and they're like, oh, is anyone coming shopping? I'm going to go do my weekly shop at Morrison's. Anyone want to come? I'll give you a lift. And it's like, all right, yeah, fair enough. I quite like it. And they all got along. And because they got along, they never left. If you've got a house full of people that are now friends, then why would they have a need to move out?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. And then another thing, keeping your property maintained to a high standard is absolutely fundamental. I mean, the importance of having a good cleaner, because a cleaner can perform spot checks on every visit. Equally, they can't go into the rooms without notice. However, the cleaner's going to be able to go around all the communal areas and make sure everything's in working order and everything's being kept to a high standard as well. Because if you fall off for a couple of weeks with your cleaning and the place starts getting messy and it's an 8-bed HMO, that mess soon builds up.
Yeah,
okay, and then these people, and it starts reciprocating onto the tenants as well, and they start disrespecting the property. But if you keep it to a high standard, even getting the HMO rules there as well. Yeah,
that's a good point.
And keeping them on it, and obviously telling them about it, and actually making it very, very clear when they move in to follow these rules, to clean up after themselves, to make sure they're not leaving anything out, make sure they are putting the pots and pans away, make sure they are cleaning the dishes. These are certain things that you do need to make these guys aware of.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Them HMO house rules will save you a lot of time, because there's a clear policy there that they have to follow, and it's just basic stuff. But take it from us, sometimes people that live in HMOs don't understand basic stuff. Wash up after yourself. Don't annoy tenants. Little simple
don't
things.
Be loud and disruptive.
Exactly. But if you've not got that in place, trust me, that will happen. But then there's no structure there to have a conversation or to prevent it. So if you've got the HMO house rules that when they move in, once you've done the tenant onboarding, which I think we're going to discuss a little bit later on as well, to make sure that it's 100% perfect, then you run them through the rules, make sure they understand, and make sure they understand the consequences. Okay, because if it's broken, you can introduce a fine, for example, or there could be might have a three-part warning to eviction. So make sure they understand if they break these rules or don't comply, there is consequences.
That's it. And then finally, setting aside money for unexpected maintenance and vacancy periods. This is key, okay? So if your property's making you or bringing in £2,000 a month, stick £200 of it into a savings pot and just let that build. Because if you have someone move out for 2 months, or if a window breaks, I know you can charge the tenant his deposit. However, you've got that cash reserve there for unexpected maintenance and unexpected voids.
Yeah, no, it's key, because especially, say for example, you start getting trigger happy with your bank card, which as soon as you start to see the money rolling through, it's quite easy. I've done it, and right at the beginning of your journey, you're seeing thousands of pounds coming through, and it's like, shit, this is nice. But then you're splashing it because you're thinking, well, I can live a little bit of a better life now, and that's just, I think it's a phase you have to go through. But say for example, it gets that, and your maintenance comes up, and you think, shit, I can't even pay it. So you just make sure you keep it aside, okay? And ideally, don't be trigger happy with your card. Kind of understand to make sure that you're being very, very smart with what it is, the money that you're getting through for your HMOs. But just keep it to one side, because you never know when a cost is going to occur, and you want to get these fixed quite quick. Happy tenants stay. If you're dragging it all out and you're a bad landlord, then where are they going to go? They're not going to stay with you, are they? So if you can make that whole process for them and stay in there as easy and as simple and as livable as possible, then it's only going to be you that reaps the benefits from that.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you're a good landlord, it's going to make them be good tenants as well.
Yeah.
If you're ignoring the messages, if you're not staying on top of maintenance, what gives these guys, like, if you put yourself in the mind of a tenant, yeah, I'm paying this guy to live here. However, he's not fixing my shower. The cleaner isn't coming round. Fuck him. I don't care. I ain't going to follow his rules because he's not reciprocating it to me.
Exactly.